call him, big meathead.
I like that beef. Trust me, I like beef when it's between
Italian
people
beef,
like Semway.
100%.
Italian beef. Hey, how the fuck is that even a question?
UFC Sad Meat Boys, episode 207. Let's recap last week, Meat Boy, before we jump into this week's locks. If you're new here, Meat Boy MMA, smash subscribe if you're looking for locks and laughs. Last week, Meat Boy, your boy went 5-0. I'm 15-1 across the last 3 weeks, and UFC 313 pretty much delivered, I thought. There were a lot of bangers. Obviously, the meat event, lots to talk about. What did you make of UFC 313, and what stood out to you on the card?
Yeah, no, it was a decent card. I kind of worried that the main event wasn't going to be too exciting, or it was going to be a spectacular knockout by Pereira. And man, Mago Meat just is Mago Meat, dude. Like he kind of showed that Pereira is human. Great performance, but it was also kind of boring. But like you got to do what you got to do when it's someone like Pereira, in my opinion. So props to him. Good job. Gaethje. I don't know why he was the dog. That was the easiest money I've ever seen. Jalen Turner, jeez, that was a rough one to watch. And now he's retired. Like he's like what, 25, 27 or something? Like so young, but yet on the shingles. But no, the card was a pretty decent card. Other than the main event, in my opinion, it lacklustered, but it kind of just seemed like that's what it would be anyway. It was too good to be true, probably be lame, and that's what it turned out to be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you talked about, I want to touch on Jalen Turner. First of all, I think he's 29 maybe, and yeah, I was definitely surprised to see him hanging up. I mean, he's losing to very tough guys, and I think he must have thought that he was future champ, and anything short of that perhaps isn't worth it to him, but gotta imagine he could still beat a lot of dudes, perhaps most dudes in the division, so you wonder if Jalen Turner will, maybe after some time, reconsider the retirement, but Nacho Bahamondes looked amazing in that fight. I mean, he picked up a submission now. I mean, this dude is going out there winning by KO. Now he's getting subs. He can grind out decisions. Very high ceiling for Ignacio Bahamondes. And you mentioned Justin Gaethje being the dog. Obviously, we're all over that. Another great fight, similar to their first iteration, but Gaethje just on a whole another level. And then I want to talk about the Ankalaev fight, as you mentioned. I mean, the fight some of the rounds were close, right? I honestly thought that the judges were going to find a way to gift AP that victory. I thought perhaps you could rationalize rounds 1, 3, and 5, despite personally thinking Ankalaev won. And Dana said the same thing in the press conference. He said, wasn't sure how to score it, but he did have Magomed as the winner. Perhaps it wasn't the most explosive fight, but what'd you make of Alex Pereira having to go backwards, and did Magomed sort of create the blueprint for Pereira? And at 37, now without the belt, would you say that Alex Pereira, I don't want to say is donezo, but is the story done?
I would say, to be honest, I don't want to even see that rematch. It's kind of probably going to go the same. Like, Pereira has this false reality, clearly doesn't watch film. He thinks that a guy that doesn't grapple is going to grapple with him, so he was on his back heel the whole time. It was a little bizarre. It was almost like, hey, well, have you not paid attention to his career or look at footage or anything? Because there was 2 fake takedown attempts. One was push against the cage and just smother him, which it looked like he didn't know what to do. And is Magomed really that much stronger than you? If he was, he should have easily got you to the ground, but he couldn't. So that makes me think that just the inexperience of the wall game with Pereira, and he just kind of was like, I don't want to get taken down. It was almost like, don't get taken down, and that's a win to me. That's what it felt like for Pereira. And I saw the interview. Dana White says they're going to run it back. So Dana really wants him to become champion. He does not want Magomed, and hopefully he now that he feels him, he knows what to do to beat him. So I guess they'll run it back, but I don't know. I just don't even care. I feel like Magomed deserves it. I want to see a new era almost. And Pereira, I mean, he's getting old. He's 38, 39 or something. It's not uphill from here, right? So it's a slow sizzle down, and this might have been the very beginning of that.
I mean, yeah, he is 37. He had a meteoric rise to the top, and obviously the story does have to end at some point. You just wonder if it's now or later. And you mentioned a lot about the takedown defense, and I mean, one interesting fact from the contest: Magomed had 0 total takedowns, and in the corner, Alex Pereira was very stoked about his takedown defense. How did my takedown defense look? Did you see me stuff takedowns? He was it definitely, to your point, seemed like he was pretty hyper focused on that aspect of the fight when perhaps there were other things he needed to worry about. But nonetheless, as you said, great win for Ankalaev. I too am not as bullish on the rematch. I mean, of course it'll be entertaining, but I would like to see something else, I guess. And I want to see Alex Pereira maybe fight the winner of Black Jag versus Jan Blachowicz. I think that is an interesting fight, and we'll see where Pereira's at. And if anything, I guess I'm a little bit excited at the fact that now there's no more John Jones versus Pereira story, I got to imagine. So if there was a roadblock to John Jones, Tom Aspinall, and that was Poetan, then hopefully there's some clarity in that regard. But nonetheless, a couple other fights, Meat Boy. King Green absolutely smoked, wheel kick knockout. We were all over that. Mauricio Rufy as a pretty sizable favorite, but he's got a lot of hype and keeps delivering. The Fighting Nerds are pretty much unstoppable. And then Bruno Fajeda, the Hulk, we were all over that as a dog against Armen Petrosian. Beautiful finish. And finally, the MEATLOCK was Curtis Blades. Ultimately, the fight didn't happen. Curtis Blades pulls out, and Rizvan was looking juiced to the gills. So perhaps it was a MEATLOCK, what's the word? Maybe it was a MEATLOCK release, so to speak, and maybe we dodged a bullet on that one, or was Curtis Blades going to get that one done even over no USADA Kunia?
Yeah, I don't even know, but I'm excited to rebook that and see where that goes. But maybe no USADA, Ubereem 2.0 is gonna maybe knock his head off. I mean, it kind of made sense after looking back at it why the favorite was so insane. I go, oh, no USADA, this guy's known for steroids. I did not know that before the breakdown. So we kind of dodged a bullet, it feels like, but we shall see. I'm excited for that fight coming up soon. Um, but yeah, no, with the Pereira and John Jones, Dana White says Tom Aspinall Jones is happening 100%. So if there was a chance, now it's absolutely dead. Seems Dana wants to get Magomed out, and seems like they're trying to start the year of the Brazilians because, like you said, those Fighting Nerds are on the rise, and it just feels like the Brazilian year. It was like what was it, the year of the Mexicans last year. Before that, the year of the Russians or City Kickboxing or something, and now it just seems these Brazilian guys are coming out of nowhere and they are making a statement every time they fight.
Yeah, the Fighting Nerds specifically are incredible, right? They keep winning fights.
Incredible.
John Silver, we're going to see against Bryce Mitchell in a couple months, and he's a huge favorite, even against a talented, respected veteran in Bryce Mitchell. So a lot of good stuff there. You mentioned Curtis Blades getting rescheduled for USADA. Very stoked about that. That'll be in May, so maybe there's going to be better fights on the card as opposed to the Blades return Meatlock. But nonetheless, Meat Boy, UFC Sad is this week, and I'm kind of bummed even to transition away from 313 because compared to what we're breaking down this week is just truly sad. So I reluctantly ask, are you ready to swap us through?
Yeah, I guess we can swap through the sadness.
Yeah, move us through the sadness. Starting off, though, obviously it's the Meatlock. You always have to find one, even on a card as sad as this. And it's Ryan Spann versus Waldo Cortez. And we like Ryan Spann as a Meatlock dog. I mean, he's 8-5 in the UFC. He has a lot of losses, obviously, but he's taking on Waldo Cortez, who is 12-1. He's 5-1 in the UFC. Most of them are decisions, although he has one finish over Lucas Bresky, who truly gets finished by everyone. And other than that, it's been snoozer decision against pretty low-level fighters, except Arlovsky, who obviously is an OG and has hella wins at the division, but is still 52 at the end of the day. So Waldo Cortez, we think, is an inflated hype beast, and this can be too much of a level test against a guy in Ryan Spann who has wins over Ewan, who's peaking, has wins over JV Baseball, who's peaking, and has a couple other wins pre the first loss against Johnny Walker when he had went on a pretty fat tear, 5-0, 6-0 to start his UFC tenure. So it's been rough recently, but we like Superman Spann, Ryan Man, Superman Spann as a Meatlock dog in this one. How do you think gets this one done over Cortez, and what do you make of the odds?
Yeah, I like the odds. I love a good underdog lock, that is for sure. And I just think like it's kind of crazy. Like Ryan Spann, he's decently bad, but where's Waldo is horrifically bad, and I just don't see how he's gonna beat Ryan Spann. Ryan Spann has a lot of submissions, KOs. He's kind of got it all. He is a specimen as long as he trains. And with these odds, it's just too juicy to not pass by.
It's a good point. When Ryan Spann is dialed, when you can tell he's been training, the dude looks quite impressive. I mean, some even thought he might contend for a title at some point, but he does on occasion come into fights unprepared, and when that version shows up, he can lose to some guys that maybe on a different night he could get W's over. But it seems that even if it's an unfocused Ryan Spann, and we think he is coming in not necessarily juiced to the gills Rizvan Kuniev style, but in this post USADA era, Ryan Spann is looking pretty good on the socials and seems to be physically dialed. But my question is, even if Ryan Spann is recycling past footage and he isn't coming into this one truly physically dialed, will he at his worst still be better than Salsa Boy?
I gotta imagine like Costa's so bad that his Span's reach and everything it should be enough to deal with him. But if not, if it goes to the ground, he's definitely gonna submit him. I mean, he's got a lot of submissions. He knows how to get it done. And whereas Waldo was, grappling his last fight, it was versus an absolute behemoth, so it kind of made sense. But he's got to be one of the worst grapplers ever. So if he tries to grapple again, I gotta imagine he's gonna submit him early and often. But I think this is going to end with a KO or a submission.
Yeah, Tapology is slightly leaning for Cortez across the Salsa Boy getting 58%. It's basically all base, so they think that it's going to just be a snoozer of a decision victory for Waldo, but 42% is rolling with the Meat Boys. They like the Meatlock dog, and majority of it is brown and or copper for the TKO or sub. So if Span does pick up a victory as 42% predict, they think it's most likely to be by finish, and I think we are getting to finish in this one, Meat Boy. I mean, I don't see a world where Waldo Cortez is able to just smush Ryan Spann and lay on him for 15 minutes like he was able to do against Robelis to Spain, because Ryan Spann is just way more well-rounded in that department, and he can get stuck under dudes, but against dudes who are pretty competent, right? Nikita Krylov comes to mind. Nikita Krylov is on a different level than Waldo Cortez, at least when in terms of grappling, for sure. So I think it's a good meatlock dog for us. We're keeping it simple, throwing on an easy 100 to net 140. Technically keep the meatlock streak alive because, again, last week was a gifted push, we might say. But nonetheless, it's a meatlock. I'm going Ryan Spann for the finish. Do you agree, or are you going decision?
Yeah, finish for sure, 100%.
Yeah, let's go finish 100%. Waldo is truly bad, and it's time the odds makers stop thinking otherwise. But swap us through, Meat Boy, because this one I think is pretty fascinating. It's Kurt Hollabaugh coming in as a pretty sizable dog against Alexander the Great Ape Hernandez, who obviously you know the story, made his debut 7 days notice, goes out and sleeps Benil Dariush as like a plus 450 dog, and from there he was off and running. But now fast forward, I mean, at this point that was almost 7 years ago, and since then, he's 7-7 in the UFC. He's lost 4 of his last 6. His only win since 2023 is that split decision over Thud Hubbard, and it's just basically been pretty bad. I mean, he's jumped up from division to division, and now the UFC is giving him a guy in Kurt Hollabaugh who has technically won 4 of 5. He got his UFC spot back via Ultimate Fighter and has won 2 of 3 since being back with the promotion, but he's a much older version, much more grindy, grittier version of Alexander the Great, who technically should be in his physical athletic prime. And the odds makers are taking the young fighter on this one, but is Kurt Hollabaugh as more of a dog, a cash-worthy dog in your opinion?
Yeah, yeah, no, I think he is a cash-worthy dog. Pretty crazy to see Hernandez as a favorite. He's one of the best fighters that never became a good fighter. He's an absolute specimen, but somehow he always finds a way to lose. And I kind of see this as a juicy dog where I think he's probably going to lose to, Hollabaugh. I think Kurt is an absolute OG dog, and he's going to get it done and out-grit him and get through this. It's going to be pretty funny upset. I'm excited. But yeah, I got to take Kurt on this one.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Because the last time we saw Kurt Hollabaugh was against Kenan Kruszewski, who is a hype beast debutant from Contender Series, and in that fight, Hollabaugh was also a sizable dog, but he went out there and really beat the brakes off of Kenan. That fight was not close, and Kurt really looked good against basically a surging hype beast, and now he's taking on Hernandez, who, like you said, he's kind of reminds you of Shabazian a little bit. I mean, I know Shabazian took out your boy the Mindless Hulk a few weeks ago, but as a guy who just has been a consistently solid level for a long time, but never really breaks through. And it seems like Hernandez broke through against Dariush and then hasn't gotten noticeably better since then. Despite every time you watch him, you're waiting for those improvements to be shown. But in this one against Kurt Hollabaugh, I mean, the only thing that gives me some pause is Kurt Hollabaugh did lose that fight to Trey Ogden, and Trey Ogden just got a bunch of takedowns and kind of smushed Hollabaugh in that contest. Do you see a world where Hernandez tries to just out grapple, out strength, out wrestle Kurt Hollabaugh? And if so, might that give Hollabaugh some troubles? Or are you confident that Hollabaugh's takedown defense and defensive grappling will be enough to deal with Hernandez if he decides to go that route?
Yeah, no, I gotta imagine that Hollowbow's grappling will definitely be enough. I think Hernandez is gonna want to keep it on the feet for the most part, because that would be funny if he gets submitted on the ground. But I think Hollowbow will actually do better if it hits the ground. But the longer the fight goes, I mean, Hollowbow is a absolute cardio king. So Hernandez is known for a two pump chump. So Hernandez needs to get it done early and often, KO first round, or it might be a long night, and Hollowbell might just show why he's an OG veteran and he's going to outclass the young lad.
Yeah, I buy that a lot. Again, the odds are minus 205 is Hernandez, plus 170 is Hollabaugh. I'm going to roll with you, Meatball. I'm going to go with Kurt Hollabaugh. I just see a world where perhaps Kurt loses the first round and then finds a way to win that second round. And when it's 1-1, third round, who has more of a gas tank? Who has more heart? Gotta imagine Kurt Hollabaugh is going to find a way to get that one done. So, to your point, as long as he can survive those dangerous first few minutes when Hernandez is swinging those YOLOs, then gotta imagine he can grind out a decision in this one. And even in that first round, I mean, when was the last time Alexander Hernandez got an early finish? I mean, it seems like that fight against Dariush, I guess there's that one win against Mike Breeden, but beyond that, I mean, it's not like he's going out there and starching dudes in the first round that often. So Hollabaugh survives one, ends up winning a decision is what I'm saying. Do you think Kurt Hollabaugh picks up a sneaky YOLO sub? I mean, you mentioned the sub. He does have 10 to his name. Any chance that that cashes, or are you going decision?
I do like the sub, but probably decision. It's either going to be decision or sub. That's the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, we'll take Hollabaugh as the dog. Likely decision. Let us know in the comments if you think Alexander, the Great Ape Hernandez, will be back. But swap us through, Meat Boy, because this one I think is pretty funny. It's Kevin Vallejos, the debutant from the Dana White Contender Series, coming in with a lot of hype and is about a minus 500 favorite over Sung Woo Choi, Sting Woo Choi, who is 11-7. This will be his 10th UFC fight, and at one point, this dude had back-to-back victories over Yusuf Zalal, who suddenly looks like perhaps a future champ, and our boy Julian Erosa back-to-back. But since then, he's lost 4 or 5, loves to get finished in most of them, and his only win was a very close, arguably a loss, unanimous decision win over Jarno Aaron. So it's been rough for Sting Woo Choi the last few years, but anytime you get these fights where it's 10-fight UFC veteran versus debutant hype beast, a lot of times the experience cashes through. So in this one, does Sungwoo Choi have any life over this hype beast 13-1 debutant, or is Kevin Vallejos going to simply ragdoll Stingwoo Choi and send him straight to the GFL?
You know, I think he will send him to the GFL. Sung Woo Choi, man, was such a top prospect, and the might he has fallen. Now he's an absolute bum. For bum cards, apparently, just to get snuffed. So he's probably going to get knocked out. It's probably going to be sad, also maybe funny, but it's like, dang. Sung Woo Choi is about to meet the GFL, I guess.
Yeah, and he's taking on, again, a little bit more context on El Chino in this one, Kevin Vallejos. The kid is a minus 450 favorite. He's 14-1. He is only 23 years old, though, Meat Boy. And when you look at Sting Woo Choi, he's 32, the aging veteran for sure. But when you look at some of the other intangibles, El Chino is 5'7", aka 4. He's taking on Sung Woo Choi, who's 6 foot, has a 75-inch reach to El Chino's 68-inch reach. And 94% of Tapology is rolling with him. So they seem to think that this kid is the future, so to speak. But does the size worry you at all? And could Sung Woo Choi find ways to take advantage of the length and the size that he's going to have over this kid?
I mean, you put it with that kind of framework, and yeah, this kind of seems like the dog lock sad card, because there's a lot of these dogs and there are a lot locks like Sung Woo Choi, but it's going to be sad because we're going to lose money on a Sung Woo Choi. But the odds are so juicy that I'm probably going to hammer it. But yeah, I gotta imagine Sung Woo Choi is probably getting knocked out even with the crazy advantages. I am just not sold on him anymore. I can't. I won't. I gotta be better than the sad card, because I'll be sad after Sung Woo Choi gets snuffed.
Yeah, it's a great point, and obviously, you see the odds for Sting Woo Choi, and of course, you want to capitalize on that, especially when looking at the size. And it's one of those things where I think if you take Sung Woo Choi to win, obviously he's going to lose. But if you take El Chino to get a finish, then perhaps Sung Woo Choi finds a way to get it done. So it's one of those fights where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. But I don't know, Meat Boy. Something tells me that Sung Woo Choi has one final fight in him, one final moment in him, and I think Sung Woo Choi keeps his job with a YOLO knee, some sort of spectacular finish over this hype beast Vallejos, because I'm not yet sold that this kid has faced the requisite competition that our boy Sting has, and I don't know. Something tells me that Sting's going to find a way to get a YOLO in this one, but would obviously never advise anyone to ever pick Sung Woo Choi in a UFC fight, because as soon as you do, he's getting slept for sure. But I'm going to go that route for the YOLO. I'm taking Sting by finish. You're taking Vallejos by what? Decision or finish?
By finish.
Finish either way. Let us know in the comments if we're tripping on that one, or specifically if I am taking the plus 450 dog. But nonetheless, people, a couple to go. This one's fun. It's Chidi and Joe Kawani versus Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos. And I say it's fun. I mean, it would be more fun if this was, perhaps the headliner of an early prelim. But this is the co-meet event, and it's Dos Santos versus Chidi, who Chidi went up a division, came immediately back down. He's back at welterweight, and since coming back down, he's won 2 straight decisions. They were, however, against Reese McKee, Awful, and Jared the Night Train Gooden. So he's taking on Alicio Dos Santos, who only has one recent loss in the last 5 years. It was to Randy Rude Boy Brown, but in between there, he had that impressive draw over Renat, where Renat was basically about to finish him. Somehow he survives, does Dos Santos, and ultimately 10-8s Renat in the third round, and Renat almost got finished himself by the end, but it was a majority draw. He has a nice win over Benoit Saint-Denis, and this is a guy who back in the day wheel kick finished Sean Strickland in the first round. So Alicio Dos Santos has battled a lot of injuries. He's had some inactivity, but finally seems like he's healthy and back at him, and the UFC clearly is giving him a prime opportunity in this one in a co-meet slot against Chidi. So what do you make of this co-meet event? Do you like Chidi and Joe Kawani on a 2-fight win streak as a plus 154 dog, or is Dos Santos going to get another statement victory and propel himself into better conversations?
Man, I would love to pick Chitty, and that's why I gotta pick Chitty. Chitty's my guy. Every time he loses, I still believe. This guy is an absolute specimen. He has all the right skill sets and the abilities and the body size, the reach, the length, the power, but he just keeps coming up on the short end of the stick. This is his bounce back. I love a good underdog. There's so many underdogs on this card that are just so juicy, like the Woo Choi. I would have taken that any other year, but after being duped so many times, I just can't. So this one, I'm not at Woo Choi level with Chitty, but if he doesn't get it done this time, I'm at Woo Chung level with Chitty, and I'll probably never pick him again.
Yeah, that's fair for sure. I mean, I don't blame you for having a shorter leash for certain fighters, and it's good to. I mean, one thing that's encouraging if you are taking Bang Bang, I mean, the fact that he's back at his best weight and has picked up some wins, I mean, suggests there's still something in the tank. And the fact that he's younger than Zaleski, right? I mean, Zaleski has a better resume, greater accolades, greater UFC victories, but he's also a little bit older and basically similar to our last fight, Vallejos, the meathead 5'5", coming in against 6'2" Giga Chad Sting Woo Choi. You're basically looking at the same thing here. Zaleski 5'11", 73-inch reach. Mini Mendes style coming up against Chitty, who is long, right? 6'3", 80-inch reach. So if he's able to, land those similar Randy Rude Boy Brown type strikes that Zaleski had a lot of trouble with, then perhaps that could be a similar recipe for him. I mean, if we look back to that Zaleski fight, he just could never get close enough to Rude Boy Brown, and I think the length was key to that. So if Chitty's going to have that advantage on the feet, which perhaps he may, do you anticipate him getting a finish in this one, or is Capoeira going to lose a decision? If you're picking Chitty, how's he get it done?
If Chitty gets it done, it's going to be by KO. Maybe a decision, but I think it's going to need to be a KO on this one.
Yeah, this one I've been going back and forth on. Tapology is awfully bullish on Zaleski, so again, he's a pretty decent favorite, almost 2-1. 80% of Tapology is rolling with him. Only 20 is going with Njokuani. I'm back and forth, Meat Boy. What's the best pitch for why Chitty gets a KO finish in this one?
He is due for a great comeback. His size and reach. I mean, this is going to stay on the feet the whole time. She's gonna absolutely snipe him. That's kind of my gut feeling, but I don't know. Maybe Mini Hulk comes in with those short arms and absolutely sends him to the Shadow Realm. That could absolutely happen. I just hope it does not.
Yeah, it's like, does this fight stay on the feet primarily? I guess is what I'm wondering. And I don't know. Something tells me that Capoeira is going to find a way to maybe get some takedowns, and I think Zaleski's probably going to get this one done. I'm not yet sold on Chidi being officially back. I mean, those are 2 victories, great. Reese McKee, Jared Gooden. That's pretty sweet and all, but I don't know. I think Dos Santos, if he's still the same guy that we saw just a few months ago against Zach Scoggins, then I think he's going to find a way to get this one done. So I'll go Dos Santos by decision. You got Chidi by finish. Any last thoughts on the co-main?
No, it's a solid co-meet for a very sad card.
Yeah, solid and sad for sure. It's the meat event though, Meat Boy, and it's a rematch of a fight that I actually was at in the first installment in London. It was a fight that I remember looking at as soon as the fight ended. You look around the stands, you ask people, what they think of that fight, and the chatter, at least in the section I was in, was a lot of bemusement. Nobody really knew who won that fight because it was just that close, at least from the live perspective, and it seemed like that sort of translated to the viewers at home, but. It's a rematch. Officially, Marvin got the decision, and it was unanimous. So the judges at least saw it in one way. Two judges, I believe, scored it 2-1. The third scored it 3-0. But like I said, live each round was very, very close. So to me, it makes sense why they're running this one back. But Marvin Vettori has been out for a couple years now. He is still a -166 favorite, though. I think maybe the odds makers see that previous result and maybe just forgot about the context, how close it was, the fact that Vettori has been out this long. I mean, I guess my question becomes, what do you make of these odds? And are you at all surprised that Roman Dolidze is coming in at a +140 dog, supremely active last year, went on a nice, beautiful win streak against a guy in Vettori who we haven't seen in years and barely won the first time?
Yeah, Roman Dolidze, that's my guy. And there's an OG who's been completely faded, Thermopylae, and he always said, never fade a Georgian underdog. So I gotta ride with that. This is a main event underdog lock in my opinion. Not a meat lock, but a underdog Roman Dolidze lock. Take that as you will, but yeah, I got Roman Dolidze winning this.
100%, yeah. Thermopylae totally faded the boys, obviously, and it's crazy because I feel like we still have somehow heard from Thermopylae more recently than we've seen Marvin Vettori fight. Like, I mean, Marvin Vettori seemingly has been out for what feels like years, and technically he fought in that fight of the night against Cannonier summer of 2023, but it's been a while. And to piggyback off Thermopylae's point, he said he'd never bet against a Georgian underdog, so. And this one at +140, I kind of like Roman as a dog as well. If we look at Tapology, though, Meat Boy, I was a little bit surprised to see these numbers. Again, Marvin is the favorite, and the Tapology metrics basically reflect just as much. He's 64% versus 36% for Dolidze, and it's beige all over the place. So they think that a decision for either guy is most likely. Are you all surprised that 64% is going with Marvin? And are you surprised that it's all beige, or do you agree that this fight likely goes the distance like most Marvin fights do?
Yeah, I mean Marvin, if he wins, it's by decision. Roman can win though by decision, submission, or TK or KO, TKO. He's proven that. Marvin really hasn't. So if this fight goes the distance, either one has it. If it ends with a KO or submission, Roman Dolidze has it. So that's a 3-1 odds on the type of way to win. I gotta go that Roma Dolidze has leveled up. I mean, he's been so much more active. Like you're saying, Marvin. Who's Marvin? I forgot that he was even in the UFC or even part of the organization. He's just been in the shadows. And he lost to Jared Cannonier, which no shame in that. But that's gonna make you on the 2-year list of shingles. And now he's off of it, and he's coming back with Roman Dolidze. Roman wants that win back, taking that L back from him because he knows he won it the first time and he knows what to do for the second time. And Roman's been so active and just getting better and better. So I think this is going to be a body sesh, an eye opener. And honestly, I could see Marvin pulling the tarantula shingles and fake retiring.
Yeah, it's very interesting, right? I mean, given all that context for sure. And I guess one thing that, as we're inspecting this and fleshing it out in real time, one thing that I guess does give me a little bit of concern, me boy, is Marvin Vettori is a dude who has nearly 30 fights and he's never been finished, right? This is a guy who seems unfinishable. I mean, yes, he has some dominant decision losses, that against Whitaker, against Izzy, obviously, but he's never gotten finished and basically has never really been rocked either. Whereas Roman Dolidze is a guy who basically has all finishes. His only recent win by decision was against Lionheart Smith. So are you at all concerned that the sheer blockheadedness of Marvin Vettori will allow him to survive those early dangerous moments, and then once the Dolidze maybe starts to gas out a little bit, that's when the OG Marvin will be able to take over? Or do you think Dolidze is getting a finish, or do you think that Dolidze can win a decision in this one against Vettori? Like, when I'm really starting to do a deep dive, I'm skeptical about how Dolidze wins this. So what do you think?
Hey, Jack Hermanson, I don't think has ever been submitted, and he got tapped in 2 seconds. I'd have to fact check that, but I'm just pretty sure he's never been submitted in the UFC. But underdog Georgia brother gets stuff done. You just can't doubt him. That's just like it's gonna happen. Marvin hasn't been knocked out. He's due. Look at Bobby Green. Bobby Green never gets knocked out, and now he's on a knockout spree of getting snuffed. Max Holloway, he was due, and then he got absolutely snuffed to the Shadow Realm. Uh, yeah, I don't know. I think that this one is. I think he's gonna knock him out. I really do. I think he's gonna knock him out. Submit him would be wild. That would be wild, but also cool. I think he's gonna knock him out.
Yeah, any guy who is historically known for their chin, at some point you just gave some great examples. Volkanovski's another one. At
Yeah.
one point, there is one fight where the trend has to start. So maybe this is the one, and Roman goes out there and stiffens Blockhead, who hasn't been in the cage in about 2 years. My final question is, Meat Boy, one fighter in this is 36, the other is 31. Mix and match the age with the fighter. What do you think?
What do you mean?
Who do you think's 36? Who do you think's 31?
Oh. Well, the reason why I know this is because my boy Roman is the guy. But wait, now you got me thinking. I don't know. Wait, is Roman Dolidze is the younger guy? There's no way.
Roman Dolidze is 36.
Oh, okay,
Vettori's
okay.
31.
I thought Roman
I'm
Dolidze was the older guy, but you're about to trip me out where I was like, no way. He looks like he's 50.
Roman Dolidze is the older fighter. I
Okay,
guess
okay.
I'm just a little bit surprised by that because although Roman's been way more active lately, Marvin technically is still 5 years younger and arguably in his prime. So does the age give you any pause, or you always knew that coming into this, and it's still not going to matter a Caucasian for the KO?
Yeah, I mean it's just like Jalen Turner. I mean he's about to hit his prime and he's retiring. Once you're out, you're out. And for whatever reason, that loss to Jared Cannonier bothered him, or he took a 2-year hiatus just to come back to the Georgia underdog, which that's the worst fight you could ever come back to. Come to a Georgia favorite, you might have a chance. So this one has Georgian upset underdog. This is the sad underdog story, and honestly, maybe every underdog on this card cashes. I don't know. This is a pretty crazy card. It's a sad one. We shall see.
Crazy sad indeed. I'm still going back and forth because as we're doing this deep dive, I'm second guessing everything. But I guess it could be just a paralysis by analysis type situation, and fundamentally, just it comes down to never bet against a Georgia dog. So I guess my final insight will be I don't know how Roman gets this one done, but let's trust the wise Thermopylae. And if Roman goes out there and gets absolutely slept by the younger Italian Dream, who suddenly is back, then I'm done abiding by Thermopylae's wisdom, and to me, it will have been maxed out because I'm over it. We haven't heard from him in years, anyways, so it's been real. For now, however, I'll take his word. Never bet against a Georgia dog. I'm taking Dolidze, not sure by outcome. You like the KO. Will it be early or often?
I think it will be often, but also early.
Let us know in the comments if you think the Blockhead is a deservable favor in this one and we're tripping on the Caucasian, or is Roman coming to sleep Vittori and send him to a permanent Italian dream. But nonetheless, Meat Boy, UFC Sad finally in the rear view. We've broken down 5, and your boy's been on a tear. Not to neglect what you've been doing recently, too. You are also on a tear. How do we do it for this week, UFC Sad?
I think this one's gonna be a sad one, but I think we'll do all right. I'm feeling a 4-1.
Four
to
more
me.
for USA 3-2, but let's hope that it's another 5-0 undefeated banger because would love to keep the streak alive. Nonetheless, Ryan Span is the Meatlock Dog, Ryan Man, Superman Span for the dub. Any last thoughts on UFC Sad, Meat Boy?
No, it's a sad one. It's a fun one. Throw in the comments who you're picking and why.